I used to believe friendship was unbreakable, that the person who had seen me at my lowest, who had talked me down from the ledge of my own self-hatred, would always be there. I was wrong. Sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who teach us the harshest lessons about what loyalty really means. And sometimes it takes losing someone to understand they were already gone. The realization didn't come as a lightning strike, but as a slow, painful erosion, like watching a beloved childhood home crumble brick by brick until all that remained was the memory of what once stood tall. My best friend and I had been inseparable since high school. She was 2 years younger, but somehow that never mattered. We were cosmically aligned, or so I thought. She held my hand through body dysmorphia so severe doctors discussed hospitalization. I answered her tearful calls at 3 a.m. when her parents' restrictions felt like prison walls closing in. We were each other's constants in a world of variables. Distance changes things, they say. When I left for university in another city, I promised nothing would change. I meant it with every fiber of my being. I scheduled monthly visits home, planning them meticulously around my increasingly chaotic life of classes, relationships, and the constant battle with my own reflection. I'd message her the moment I purchased my flight tickets, carving out precious hours just for her. She was my priority, my touchstone to the person I used to be before life got complicated. For 2 years, this delicate dance worked. I'd fly home, we'd meet at our favorite coffee shop, and time would suspend as we fell back into the comfortable rhythm of our friendship. Sometimes she'd complain about her restrictive parents, allowing her out just once a week. I'd listen, offer advice, remind her that university would bring freedom. When she cried about the crushing pressure of entrance exams, I stayed on the phone for hours, neglecting sleep, neglecting my own studies. I'll always be here, I promised. Another lie I didn't know I was telling. The first hairline crack appeared so subtly, I almost missed it. A canceled coffee date here. A delayed response there. Messages read but unanswered for days. I made excuses for her. She was studying. Her parents had taken her phone. She was overwhelmed. I became her personal PR representative, explaining away her absences to our mutual friends, defending behavior I would have found inexcusable from anyone else. Last month, I booked my usual flight home, a Wednesday departure that cost nearly a week's allowance. My schedule that week was particularly brutal. My boyfriend's birthday celebration, a visiting friend from abroad, and a field trip that could potentially shape my entire career. Still, I made time. For her. Always for her. 2 weeks before my visit, we confirmed our Thursday coffee date. "Can't wait to see you," she texted, adding a heart emoji that I screenshot and saved like precious evidence of our bond. I planned around that meeting, shifting other friends' invitations, explaining that Thursday afternoon was sacred. My time with her was non-negotiable. Monday night, just 2 days before my flight, we spoke on the phone. Her voice carried the casual tone of someone discussing the weather as she mentioned her dinner plans for Thursday afternoon. The same Thursday. The same afternoon. Our sacred time. We had plans, I said, the words feeling strange in my mouth. We never had to remind each other of plans. They were written in stone, unalterable, respected. "Oh, I don't look at my calendar," she replied, as if forgetting a coffee date with your best friend who flies in specifically to see you was equivalent to forgetting to buy milk. I felt something shift inside me, not anger yet, but cold, creeping realization. The call continued, but I was elsewhere, watching our friendship from above, seeing for the first time the imbalance that had been there all along. I hung up with a hollow "talk to you later" and sat in silence, trying to process the casual cruelty of her indifference. That night, I did something childish. I left our friend group chat without explanation. It was passive-aggressive and beneath me. But in that moment, it felt like the only way to express a pain I couldn't yet articulate. Her messages flooded in immediately. Not apologies, but demands to know what was wrong, as if she were the wounded party. I couldn't respond. The words wouldn't come. All I could text was, "I don't want to talk right now." Another friend called, one who had witnessed our friendship from its earliest days. She asked what happened, and when I explained, her immediate validation was like oxygen to someone drowning. "She's been different lately," my friend confirmed. "Everyone's noticed." Those words broke something open in me. It wasn't just in my head. The change was real. The distance was real. What followed was the kind of confrontation that changes friendships forever. A three-way call that exposed the raw nerve of our relationship. My friend demanded to know why I was upset, her tone suggesting I was overreacting. I explained as calmly as I could that planning my visits home required effort and expense, that confirming plans 2 weeks in advance created an expectation, that canceling Monday for a Thursday event showed a fundamental lack of respect for my time and our friendship. "I don't care what bridges I burn, but I will get into university no matter what," she responded. Those words hung in the air between us, a declaration that our friendship was a bridge she was willing to set aflame for her ambitions. I understood ambition. I understood sacrifice. What I couldn't understand was the cruelty of the calculation that our years of support, of midnight calls and shared tears, could be so easily categorized as expendable. "Everyone has important things in life," I countered, my voice shaking. "For me, it's been fighting my body dysmorphia, tracking my calories, going to the gym every day. You know my struggles. You know I was nearly hospitalized. But I still make time for the people I care about." "It's not the same," she insisted. "It's clear you don't care that much." Her words struck like physical blows. I, who had answered every call, who had rearranged my life around monthly visits home, who had prioritized her needs above my own recovery for years, I was the one who didn't care enough. The absurdity of it might have made me laugh if it hadn't hurt so deeply. Our mutual friend tried to mediate, but the damage was done. The call ended with nothing resolved, only the painful awareness that something fundamental had broken between us. That night, I canceled my flight. 1 week's allowance gone, but it felt like a small price to pay to avoid the charade of pretending things were okay. The next few days passed in a blur of conflicting emotions. Anger gave way to grief, then to a strange, hollow acceptance. Friends called to check in, unanimously shocked by her behavior. "You need to cut her off," they advised. "She's not the person you thought she was." My boyfriend offered a more charitable interpretation. "Maybe she's just stressed about university and taking it out on you." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe this was temporary insanity, not a revelation of character. But as the days turned into a week, and her messages shifted from demands for explanation to cold silence, I began to see our friendship with painful clarity. For years I had been the giver, and she the taker. I had molded myself around her needs, her schedule, her crises. When had she last asked about my recovery? When had she last canceled plans with others to accommodate me? When had she ever flown to visit me? The imbalance had always been there, hidden beneath the comfortable mythology we had created about our friendship. I had needed to believe I was essential to her, as she had been to me. I had needed to believe in the unbreakable bond between us. But bonds don't break suddenly. They weaken over time, thread by thread, until what remains is too fragile to bear any weight at all. 2 weeks after our confrontation, I found myself staring at my phone at 2 a.m., her contact information glowing in the dark. My thumb hovered over the call button, muscle memory nearly overriding my reason. How many times had I made this exact call, checking in after sensing she might be having a bad day? How many times had I been the one to reach out, to repair, to maintain? I set the phone down without calling. The action felt both foreign and necessary, like removing a splinter that had been embedded so long, it had become a part of me. The pain of extraction was sharp but cleansing. That night, I scrolled through our message history, a digital archaeology of our friendship. What I found surprised me: patterns of neglect I had willfully ignored, casual dismissals of my needs, conversations that revolved endlessly around her problems with little reciprocity. How had I not seen it? Or had I seen it and chosen to look away, afraid of what acknowledgement would mean? My therapist once told me that relationships are mirrors. They reflect back to us our own unresolved issues. What did this friendship reflect about me? A desperate need to be needed? A willingness to sacrifice my own well-being for external validation? A fear that without this role as supporter, confidant, savior, I might not be worth keeping around at all? The questions were uncomfortable, but necessary. Just as I had learned to look at my reflection in actual mirrors without hatred, I needed to examine this reflection without flinching away from the truth it revealed. Days turned into weeks. Life continued its relentless forward motion. Classes, therapy, gym sessions, dates with my boyfriend. The space once filled by constant messages and calls from my friend remained conspicuously empty. I waited for the absence to destroy me. It didn't. Instead, I found myself breathing more easily, focusing better, sleeping through the night without the anxiety of potentially missed crisis calls. Our mutual friends reported back occasionally. She was doing well, focusing on her studies, making new friends. Good, I thought, and was surprised to find I meant it. Despite everything, I wanted her to succeed, to find her way to the university dream she was so fixated upon. I just no longer believed I needed to sacrifice myself on the altar of her ambitions. 1 month after our confrontation, she messaged me, "I miss you." Just 3 words, with no acknowledgement of what had transpired between us, no apology, no recognition. In the past, these words would have been enough. I would have rushed back, grateful for the chance to resume my familiar role in her life. This time, I sat with the message for hours before responding. "I miss who we were too." She didn't reply. 4 words had never felt so final, yet so insufficient to capture the complexity of what I was feeling. I missed her, yes, but I missed a version of her that perhaps had never truly existed outside my own desperate need to be essential to someone. I missed the security of knowing exactly where I belonged in someone's life, even if that place had been unsustainable. Spring arrived, bringing with it the particular chaos of semester's end. I found myself thriving in ways that surprised me. My grades improved. My body image issues became manageable rather than overwhelming. My social circle expanded beyond the safe confines of hometown connections. The monthly flights home became bi-monthly, then quarterly. Each time I visited, I braced myself for a potential encounter with my former best friend. Each time, it didn't happen. On one such visit, I met with another childhood friend for lunch. Inevitably, the conversation turned to my former best friend. "She asks about you sometimes," my friend mentioned casually. "Says she doesn't understand what happened between you two." The statement hit me like a cold wave, not because it hurt, but because it confirmed what I had begun to suspect. She had never understood the imbalance between us. In her mind, perhaps, the friendship had been perfect. Me always available, always understanding, always putting her first. My withdrawal had been incomprehensible because she couldn't see the relationship from my perspective. "Do you miss her?" my friend asked. The question deserved careful consideration. Did I miss the 3 a.m. calls? The constant emotional support? The rearrangement of my life to accommodate her needs? No. But did I miss her laugh, her perspective on the world, the shared history that only she understood? Yes. I miss parts of her, I answered finally. But I don't miss who I was with her. The truth of that statement settled over me like a warm blanket. I had been a different person in that friendship, smaller, somehow. More anxious. More willing to contort myself to fit the narrow space allocated to me. Without the constant drain of one-sided emotional labor, I had expanded into myself, becoming more authentic, more grounded, more at peace. Summer came, bringing with it the news that my former best friend had achieved her dream: acceptance to a prestigious university program. The information reached me through our social circle, accompanied by sidelong glances gauging my reaction. I surprised myself with the genuine happiness I felt for her. Her success didn't diminish me. Her achievement wasn't a rebuke of my decision to step back from our friendship. I sent her a congratulatory message, brief, warm, sincere. She responded with equal brevity, "Thank you. It means a lot coming from you." Our exchange didn't reopen the door to what we had been, but it did crack open a window to something new. Not friendship as it had existed before, but acknowledgement of our shared history and the genuine care that had resided beneath the dysfunction. That summer became a season of perspective. Distance from our friendship allowed me to see it clearly, both its beauty and its fundamental flaws. We had been drawn together by mutual need at a vulnerable time in both our lives. I had needed someone to save when I couldn't save myself from my own self-destructive thoughts. She had needed an escape from her restrictive home life, a glimpse of freedom through my experiences. We had used each other as crutches when what we both really needed was to learn to stand on our own. Autumn arrived with its particular melancholy, leaves turning golden then brown, nights growing longer. I found myself thinking of her more frequently, not with the sharp pain of recent betrayal, but with the gentle ache of something precious lost, but properly mourned. I had entered a new chapter of my life, one where I set boundaries, where I expected reciprocity, where I valued myself enough to walk away from relationships that diminished rather than enhanced my well-being. On a whim, I sent her another message. "How's university treating you?" Her response came hours later. "It's hard. Harder than I expected. Sometimes I wish I could call you like I used to." "Why don't you?" I asked, surprising myself with a question. "I wouldn't know what to say after everything," she replied. "I still don't understand why you pulled away from me when I needed you most." Her words confirmed what I had come to understand over the months of separation. We had experienced the same friendship from fundamentally different perspectives. In her narrative, I had abandoned her during a critical time. In mine, I had finally honored my own needs after years of neglect. I didn't pull away because you needed me, I wrote carefully. I pulled away because you couldn't see that I needed you too. A long pause followed, the typing indicator appearing and disappearing several times before her message finally came through. I never thought of it that way. 4 simple words that acknowledged, however minimally, the possibility of another perspective. Not an apology, not a reconciliation, but a small crack in the certainty that had characterized her view of our fallout. It wasn't everything, but it was something. We didn't become best friends again. The intimacy we had shared, built on need and proximity, and the intensity of adolescent emotion, couldn't be reconstructed. Nor should it be. We had both outgrown the roles we had played in each other's lives. But slowly, cautiously, we began to build something new. Occasional messages became sporadic phone calls. Her tone was different now, less demanding, more inquiring. She asked about my studies, my health, my life. I found myself able to share, without the fear that my problems might overwhelm her, or be dismissed as less important than her own. I asked about her university experience, her new friends, her evolving relationship with her parents. She answered with a vulnerability that suggested she too was learning about reciprocity. 6 months after our confrontation, we met for coffee during one of my visits home. Sitting across from her in the same cafe where we had spent countless hours before, I was struck by how familiar yet different she seemed. The same laugh, the same expressive hands, but a new awareness in her eyes. "I've been thinking about what you said," she told me halfway through our meeting. "About needing me too. I don't think I understood what friendship really meant before. I thought it was just having someone who would always be there for you, no matter what. And now?" I prompted gently. "Now I think it's about both people showing up. Both people caring. Both people making sacrifices sometimes." She stirred her coffee, not meeting my eyes. I wasn't very good at that part. It wasn't a grand apology, but it was an acknowledgement, the first real recognition of the imbalance that had defined our relationship. In that moment, I felt something shift within me. Not forgiveness exactly, because that suggested lingering resentment. Rather, it was acceptance of her limitations, of my own role in enabling the dysfunctional dynamic between us, of the reality that people can care deeply for each other and still cause pain. A year has passed since that coffee shop reunion. My former best friend and I now occupy a different space in each other's lives, not the central, all-consuming role of before, but a peripheral, occasional presence. We message on birthdays and major life events. We meet for coffee once or twice when I visit home. We follow each other's social media with the benign interest of people who once knew each other intimately, but now view each other through the polite filter of acquaintanceship. Sometimes I catch myself reaching for my phone after a particularly challenging day, muscle memory still directing me toward her contact information. In those moments, I feel a pang of something like grief, not for the person she is now, but for the relationship we once had, flawed as it was. It served its purpose in both our lives. It got us through some of our darkest times. That it couldn't evolve into something healthier and more balanced doesn't negate its importance in shaping who we've become. I've learned that friendship, like any relationship, isn't static. It grows or withers according to how it's tended by both parties. I've learned that loyalty isn't measured by how much you're willing to sacrifice for someone else, but by the mutual respect that allows both people to honor their own needs while still showing up for each other. Most importantly, I've learned that walking away from a relationship that no longer serves you isn't failure. It's growth. My therapist talks about the difference between attachment and connection. Attachment comes from need, from fear, from the desperate desire to avoid abandonment. Connection comes from choice, from seeing someone clearly and choosing them anyway, flaws and all. My friendship with her had been built on attachment. What I seek now, in all my relationships, is true connection. I don't regret the years I spent as her emotional support system. Those years taught me compassion, patience, the ability to listen deeply to another person's pain. But I also don't regret walking away when I did. That decision taught me equally valuable lessons about self-worth, boundaries, and the courage required to choose oneself. We are not who we once were to each other, my former best friend and I. Perhaps that's the natural evolution of relationships formed in the crucible of adolescence. We outgrow each other, not out of malice but necessity. The people who help us survive our darkest moments aren't always the same people who accompany us into the light. I've made peace with that now. The anger has faded, replaced by a gentle gratitude for what was and acceptance of what is. I hope she's found the same peace. I hope she's learned, as I have, that true friendship isn't about perfect loyalty, or endless sacrifice, or always being available. It's about seeing each other clearly, honoring each other's humanity, and choosing connection over attachment every single day.